Question figure 1.1 shows the speed time graph for a vehicle accelerating from rest. This is a speed time graph is given for vehicle which is accelerating. As you can see, the slope for a speed time graph or velocity time graph represent acceleration. Here the slope is decreasing, so acceleration is decreasing, and when slope is constant means acceleration or deceleration will be constant. So on the first part, calculate acceleration of a vehicle at time t is equals to 30 seconds. So what we have to do, because it's a curve, so when there's a curve, each box is representing each box is representing 4. So this is 24, 28 and 30. So what we will do, we will mark a point where time interval is 30. Because it is a curve, so we have to draw a tangent. So we have to draw a tangent, the line which is passing through only one point or touching this curve at one point, that's called a tangent. And find the gradient of the tangent using a formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The first value on x-axis is called x1, the second value on x-axis that's called x2, the first value on y-axis that's y1, and the second value on y-axis is called y2. And you will use the formula for gradient y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Because it is a curve, so we have to take a gradient of this, draw a tangent and find the gradient of the tangent to find the acceleration. Because this object is not having a constant acceleration, it is continuously changing. The next part suggests, without further calculation, state how the acceleration at time is equals to 100 seconds compare with acceleration when time is equals to 10 seconds, and suggest in terms of force and a reason why the change has taken place. So first thing, when you compare at 100, so this is a time 100 and this one is a time 10 seconds. So if I draw a tangent at 10 seconds, it will be steeper tangent at compared to when I draw a tangent at 100 seconds. And slope, for a speed time graph, what slope represents? Slope represents acceleration. So at 100 seconds, because the slope is angle with x-axis is small, so its acceleration is smaller as compared to that of 10 seconds. And what is the relation between force and acceleration? Force and acceleration are directly proportional. You have the formula F is equals to ma. So force and acceleration are directly proportional. So if acceleration slope is decreasing, it means acceleration is decreasing. If the acceleration is decreasing, it means the resultant force will also decrease, because greater resultant force means greater acceleration. Smaller resultant force means smaller acceleration. Or how the resultant force for a car or a moving object is decreasing, because for car vehicle, the force from the engine is called a driving force, and the force from the air, the friction, that is called a resistive force. And the difference of the two, the driving force minus resistive force or frictional force, is equals to resultant. So what happens, even though if the driving force remains same, but what happens if the frictional force, air resistance, is increasing? So what, the difference will be smaller. If the difference is smaller, the resultant force will also decrease. And if the resultant force decrease, the acceleration will also decrease. So for this part, what happened, because the slope is decreasing, so acceleration is decreasing.
Sir, is it necessary to mention the slope?
When you use the graph, it's better you use the term slope, but you can mention, like, even you mention slope decrease, so it means acceleration is decreasing. So acceleration is decreasing can also give you mark, because the slope and acceleration are the same thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is, then what happened, it shows that the resultant force or we can say resultant force is proportional to acceleration. So the resultant force will also decrease. And how the resultant force will decrease? Because for vehicle or a car, there is a driving force and there is a frictional force or air resistance. So the air resistance increase or the frictional force increases, or you can also say the frictional force increase. So the resultant force will decrease. The next part, determine the distance traveled by a vehicle from 120 seconds to 160 seconds. So from 120 to 160, whenever we are finding a distance traveled by the object from a speed time graph, we find area under the graph. So it is making a trapezium. You can use a trapezium, or you can also divide into triangle plus rectangle. It's up to you what you find it easy to do. That method you will use. So you can find area of the triangle plus area of the rectangle. Area of rectangle plus area of triangle. So if I use a trapezium, I use as 1. So for trapezium, sum of the parallel side, half sum of the parallel side into height. So this will be half sum of the parallel side, because this side starting from 0 till 30. The second side is starting from 0 until 20, sum of the parallel side. And multiply by height means the difference between the two sides, parallel side. So it started 120 and ending at 160, so that is equals to 40. So this will be 50 multiplied by 40 divided by 2. So when we solve this, 2 multiplied by 5, 10, and 0, 0. So it will be 1000 meter. That is the distance traveled by this object. The next question, figure 2.1 shows a forklift truck lifting a box. You can also participate. You can use the chat to mention the answers. I'm discussing the whole paper. This one is May June 2018, paper 4, variant 1. The electric motor drive the lifting mechanism is powered by the batteries. State the form of energy stored in the battery. So which form of energy stored in the battery? They have chemical energy. The lifting mechanism raised the box of mass 32 kilogram through a vertical distance of 2.5 in 5.4 seconds. Calculate the gravitational potential energy. So potential energy is mass into gravity into height. So multiply them. Look, whenever it's of 2 marks, so first thing is always writing a formula. So first thing is writing a formula, and the second is writing the, like, getting the answers and write that final answer. Then the next part, efficiency of the lifting mechanism is 65%. Calculate the input power. So look, this is the output power. The output power is 800. First, what we'll do, because efficiency formula can be in terms of energy, it can be in terms of power. So first, if I'm finding the, in terms of energy, efficiency is equals to output energy divided by input energy multiplied by 100. The output is 800 and efficiency is 65. So 65 is equals to 800 divided by input energy multiplied by
1230.
100. How much is the energy first?
1231.
1230. 1230 joules of energy. But in the question, they're asking for power. Power is energy divided by time. So you have energy divided by time interval, which in the question is given 5.4. So 1230 divided by 5.4. What's the final answer?
230.
230 is like 228, 230. In marking scheme, normally they write answer in like rounded off, but you should focus on three significant figure. Instead of working on the rounding of all the answers, focus on like your answer should be in three significant figure, which is important. The batteries are charged by the main voltage supply that is generated in an oil fired power station. By comparing with the wind farm, state one advantage and one disadvantage. What is the advantage of using the oil? It is available all the time, readily available. And what is the disadvantage? So it is readily available, and the disadvantage is that it is having non-renewable pollution, or it is having a running cost. Like we have to, every time we have to buy or purchase a fuel to use in these power stations. But only one you have to write, so according to the, you can write any one of them. Then third question, a rectangular container has a base. A rectangular container has a base of a dimensions. This is the dimension of the base, and the container is filled with a liquid. So there's a liquid inside. The mass of the liquid is 4.8. What is the weight of the liquid? So weight is mass multiplied by gravity. So that will be 48. But instead of directly writing the answer, first thing, write a formula and then substitute the values in the formula and write the answer. That is 48. Then they're asking for pressure. How to calculate a pressure? Pressure is force acting on unit area. So P is equals to F over A. You will calculate the pressure exerted by the liquid is density, gravity, and depth. But in this question, we don't know the density. In the question, they did not provide us the density. That's why we can also use this second formula, the first formula. If we know the base area, if we know the base area and we know what is the weight of the liquid inside, so we can work out the pressure. So this is 48, the weight was 48 and the base area was 0.2 into 0.16. So 2530 will be the three significant figure, or yes, you can write 2005. The exact answer is 2530. They give you 2500 Pascal. The next part, explain why the total pressure on the base is greater than the value which we calculated. Yes, that's right, because only the thing what we did, we only consider that the liquid which is inside the container is applying a pressure. But in reality, in practical, what happened? There's atmosphere which is also pushing it down. So the two pressures are acting. One is atmosphere and another one is due to the liquid. The pressure due to atmosphere is neglected or not calculated here, or not included in the calculation. The depth of a liquid in a container. The depth of a liquid in a container, calculate the density. So we have the pressure. So we can use this formula: pressure is equals to density, gravity, and depth. And we have the pressure, which is 2500 Pascal. Density we don't know, gravity is 10, and the depth is 0.32. So 0.32 is multiplied, other side it will divide, and the final answer will be. Why we are not using this formula? We can also use densities, mass over volume. You can also get the answer, but for that you have to first find the volume. Area, the base area is given, multiplied by height, you will get the volume, and mass divided by volume, you will also get the same answer. So it is up to you. You can use both. For any one of them, you will get the final answer. Kilogram per meter cube. Yes. When you 2500 divided by 3.2, what's the answer for this? So 781.25. So 781.25 is rounded off to three significant figure, which is 781. Question 4. Describe the movement of molecule in a solid. So how the particles are moving in a solid? Particle vibrate about a fixed position. They vibrate in their own place. So, or they vibrate about a fixed position. What about the movement of particle in a gas? Particles are far apart, moving randomly at high speed. In the question, yes, you moving randomly, high speed, randomly in all the direction. Randomly, actually, randomly means there is no specific direction. So you can mention randomly and moving at a high speed. The next part, a closed a closed box contain a gas molecule. In terms of momentum, how the gas molecule exert pressure, and it is of 4 marks. Yeah, that's a complete answer. So basically what is happening, when the particle is are not changing their speed, but they changes the velocity. When the particle hit the wall, it bounce back. So when it bounce back, there is no change in speed, but there is a change in velocity. Why? Because velocity is a vector quantity. So if moving towards right is positive, moving towards left will be negative. So when the particle bounce back, they changes the velocity. As they change the velocity, there is a change in momentum as well. Why? Because momentum is a vector quantity which is a product of mass and velocity. So whenever there is a change in direction, there is change in momentum as well. And due to the change in momentum, they exert force on a unit area. When they exert force on a unit area, there is a pressure, and which the force on unit area is refers to a pressure. So molecules collide with the wall of a closed box. So they changes the momentum which create a force on a unit area which result in pressure. In question 5, the ray of a light in air is incident in a glass block. The light changes direction. Name the effect if it changes the direction. So we call that as a refraction. And what this cause, the cause of this effect, you can mention reflection as well, because this question, whenever it strike, like example, there's a glass block. So what are the possibilities? Maybe it enter the glass block, maybe it bounce back. So if it bounce back, you can mention reflection because it strike the surface. Or if you mention refraction, only one of them you have to mention, because they're asking for effect, not effects. That's why, either if you mention refraction, so why a refraction happen? Because what causes this? The change in speed. If you write reflection, what causes this? Because it strike the surface. So refraction is correct, reflection is also correct. But the effect, the cause of this effect, when you write for refraction, is due to the change in speed when travel from one medium to another, and cause for reflection, when it strike the surface, it changes the direction. We call that as reflection. On a figure in this question, because this is related to, on a figure, mark each of the two principal focuses and label them as F. They mention the principal focus is 3 centimeter, but I'm not measuring it. But even without measurement, we can say, as you can see, the scale is given that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes equals to 1 centimeter. So from the center, mark, you can use the screen annotation and mark focus on the right and the left hand side. It should be a point, a small point, so that it is visible. Like Hashim, it should be a small point dot. Then in the second part, they're asking an object of height 4.4 centimeter is placed 7.5 centimeter on a figure. Draw rays from tip of object and locate the image. So how we locate the image? You can use the screen annotation to locate the image. One which is passing through the center of the lens will pass straight, and one which is parallel will pass through the focus. So the point where the two light rays will meet or intersect, that is the position where you will have an image. I think this one is the right focus, because between 3 and 4, you will have 3.5, and then determine the height of image. So you just have to use a ruler and measure that height. State and explain whether the image is real or virtual. Which image is this? Real or virtual? If we can see this image on the screen, or it is, it is a real image, can be seen by seen on the screen, and it is formed by intersection of the two light rays after refraction. Yeah, that's right as well. The rays actually intersect. On the figure, draw three wavefronts on the right hand side of the barrier. This is a small gap. When the gap size approximately equal to the wavelength, then maximum diffraction occur. So you will draw the curved wavefronts. Now they adjusted the gap size, make it 5 times bigger. How the wavefronts will appear? Yeah, that's right. And one thing when in exam when you draw this, one thing you should keep in mind is the distance between the two wavefront. Like it should be done with a measurement. When you draw this distance, which is a wavelength, should matches with the first one as well. Okay, thank you for your participation. Next question. Describe with a label diagram experiment using a water wave that show a reflection of a water wave that can occur in a barrier, at a straight barrier. So first thing, and describe with a label diagram. So what we can use for this purpose, we can use a ripple tank. What is a ripple tank? A container which is filled with water. This is known as a ripple tank. Then in this ripple tank, we should be able to have a source which can produce these water waves. So for that purpose, what we can use, we can place a barrier here, like any reflecting object or surface. We can place it here as a barrier. And we can have a source which is vibrating to and fro. So when this source will vibrate to and fro, what it will create? It will create water waves. You are looking from the sideways. I will write in words as well, but first I'm explaining the idea. So when you produce a water wave, these water wave will strike the barrier and bounce back. And it should be a label diagram, like label diagram. This one is the source which is producing water, a barrier, a ripple tank. You can label these. Then the explanation for this one. So we will fill the water, fill the ripple tank with water. It is okay. You can also draw the top view. That is also correct. Like some of the students, they drew this one. Looking at the top view, these are the wave fronts. But when you look from the top, you will be able to see the wave front. So these are the wave fronts, direction in which the wave front are incident. Then example, you have a barrier. So this is a barrier, and you can draw the direction of the reflected. This is also acceptable. Both are correct. One is a side view which I drew. You can also draw. Here you can mention incident ray, reflected ray, barrier, ripple tank. Both are correct. So the ripple tank filled with water, having dippers. Basically dippers are which is used to generate or produce water waves. So will which are used to generate the water waves. Using this, will create or generate these water